$400 billion. We've added $1 trillion to the debt over the past 10 months, and now the total national debt is approaching $15 trillion. See, there they are. They're printing them right now. Simon Rosenberg is director of the New Democrat Network and a former Clinton campaign advisor. Rich Lowry is editor of the National Review and a Fox News contributor. Rich, let me start with you because you have this piece out that suggests you believe that things were rolling along swimmingly, amazingly, for the super committee. That's overstating it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say swimmingly.
But there was
progress. Rolling along.
There was a glimmer of hope until politics got injected?
The latest act was Republicans led by Pat Toomey, a very conservative member, a senator from Pennsylvania, came up with a framework for compromise, and he'd worked pretty closely with the Democrats on the committee, especially Max Baucus and his staff, and it would have been $500 billion in new revenue, which Republicans hate to do, but they were willing to do.
They were going to close some tax loopholes, or they were going to lower deductions that people
yeah, it would be coupled with a lowering of the rates. The top rate would go down to 28%, but you'd get more revenue by eliminating a lot of deductions that people at the upper end tend to take advantage of. And then $700 billion in various cuts. And then you add that up and you supposedly get another $200 billion in interest savings. So this is $1.5 trillion in savings, which would exceed the mandate. And if you talk to our Democrats seemed favorably inclined, or at least willing to talk about it. Then all of a sudden, when they consulted their own caucus, just did an about-face, walked away from the table. And their belief is that President Obama wants to run against a do-nothing Congress. So you need this super committee to do nothing.
To fail. They needed to. They're too good to fail. Do you think is this possible?
Look, this is a negotiation. I mean, you know, the Democrats have been trying to get all these things passed through Congress. The Republicans have said no in the last few months. This was a good proposal, right? The Democrats countered with, they've had their own proposal. It fell apart last night. There's many days left. I think this thing can come back together. I think there's been tremendous progress made. I mean, the fact that we're seeing Republicans now admit that there needs to be additional revenue on the table, despite Grover Norquist and other people's complaints otherwise, means that we're getting closer to a deal. So I'm optimistic. I'm not as pessimistic.
But Chuck Schumer's not. I mean, he came out and said it's going to fail. I believe they're going to fail.
Look,
and then we talked about yesterday on the show about how that was probably not a mistake. Is he sort of, saying, trust me,
I don't think the Democrats want this to fail. I mean, I think that if this fails, it's going to hurt the economy. It's going to hurt their re-election chances.
It's going to hurt Obama?
It's going to hurt Obama. I think it is, absolutely. I don't agree with Rich. I mean, I think the Democrats believe they got to get a deal because it will contribute to the sense of political dysfunction, that the government can't actually attack the country's problems, and I think that's bad for the president.
It will contribute to that sense, and the president will go out on the campaign trail and blame it on Republicans, which is what he's been doing so far, and he'll continue to do. And look,
doesn't he win either way? I mean, if they come up with a deal, he can go out there and say,
I don't think so.
Put together the super committee, and look what we did. We cut the national debt.
Yep.
And if they don't come up with a deal, he can go out there and say, it's those Republicans. They're killing us.
I think if there's a deal, it really harms his ability. He's in a mode where there's 9% unemployment, and he has to blame someone else. So if the Republicans seem reasonable and constructive, he doesn't want that. So I think Chuck Schumer is a very shrewd guy. If anyone is shrewd on politics, it's Chuck Schumer. Follow what he's saying, which is that it's not going to happen.
Why would the Democrats, Simon, not like that deal that Rich just outlined? We have with the $300 billion in revenue increases.
I think the way that the revenue is generated is not acceptable to the Democrats, and I think that's part of this negotiation.
Getting rid of the deductions that the wealthy people
cutting rates for corporations and for wealthy people, and also the $100 billion that's in there on the dynamic scoring. The Democrats are never going to accept that. So there are pieces of it. I think in general, what I was saying is, look, we're getting close. I mean, that you could see a deal come together here, and that's why I'm much more optimistic. I would have been very pessimistic on the show a few weeks ago, but I'm surprised how far, frankly, the Republicans have come.
Have the Democrats come equally far?
I think that we'll find out in the next few weeks, but I think part of it is the Republicans are reading the polls. Right now, the MSNBC Wall Street Journal poll out this week showed the Democrats with a 20-point advantage in favorability over the Republicans. The Republicans' numbers are tanking because of the perception that they're blocking good steps on the economy. They've got to come to the table for their own politics right now. I agree with Richard.
They can't go too far, otherwise Grover Norquist and others are going to say, what are you doing?
Sure, but this is the way to square the circle, and this was the Bowles-Simpson bipartisan approach. You reform taxes to get the rates lower. When you lower the rates, that's better for economic efficiency and better for economic growth.
Republicans believe that, but they haven't been able to convince the Democrats.
And then you make up the revenue. Right. But this would be a reasonable compromise. And look,
but are they ever going to get to the point, because Simon said, because they proposed this reasonable compromise, and the Democrats are saying no. So how far are the Republicans going to go? They're not actually going to consent to.
This was their compromise proposal. Democrats have not yet come back with one.
Yeah, I mean, this is in the last 24 hours.
Final word. You remain optimistic today.
I'm optimistic because I think the country needs it, and I think given all the debt, what we're seeing in Europe, I think there's even additional pressure on these guys to get this thing done in the next 2 weeks.
And you
I think there are fundamental philosophical differences, and it will take an election to sort them out.
Interesting.
Really? All right, guys. Thank you both so much. We'll know what we think in a couple of weeks, although they seem to always find a way to punt the ball a little. All right, guys. Thank you.